Hello, welcome back to All for United WFC, my favourite show of the year. I loved doing this last year. I think it was myself, Charlie, and Barry were there on that one as well. I loved it. It's my favourite show. For 3 years running, we've been doing this, where you guys have been voting on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. We've had more votes than ever before, so it's been great to collate all of those for you and put them in. We've got a nice little top 5 for each category, and we are going to go through the honourable mentions that did get votes for but didn't quite make the top 5. And I will say, when we get to goal of the season, which we will start with, you will see there is literally, I think, 2 votes between 2nd and 5th. So the couple of late entries that came in today have literally decided who got a graphic and who didn't, because only the top 3 get a nice little graphic. In 4th and 5th, they're just going to get a little tick and it goes along the screen on this one. Firstly, I'll open all that. How's everyone doing a week on from, obviously, last time we were here, we were discussing that game. We don't need to talk about that. Last game of the WSL season. But yeah, how's everyone feeling? Obviously, it's a bit weird now, isn't it? We're in that weird limbo time. No transfers really happening. Season's ended. We're kind of just floating at the moment, aren't we? Charlie's on me.
No, I'm good. Yeah, good. Obviously, very excited that the boys won. That Eric's Tricky Reds won the FA Cup final. So a little FA Cup final double is a nice way to end what would have been a tricky season for both. So that was really nice. And a good opportunity to see what both teams can do. I'm excited about tonight. You've really ramped it up by saying how close it was. So I can't wait to see. And we don't know.
Oh yeah, I forgot to say that. These guys have no... Only I know who has come where in this table. So
genuine reactions it'll be, won't it?
Indeed, exactly the same as last year. You guys didn't know what was going on last year either. Although I'm sure as we get through, you'll probably start to make your own theories as to where people have come, because by process of elimination, you start ruling players out as we get closer to number 1. Good evening to you all in the chat, by the way. There's loads of you here already, so this is going to be good there. I can't wait to get into it. Has anyone else got anything to add on what Charlie's just said there? Obviously, Keris, you were there, the men's FA Cup.
Yeah, I got to go on Saturday, and it happened to be my dad's birthday as well. So it was fantastic to for him to see United men win a trophy for once on his birthday. Was very nice. So yeah, it was a nice little family day out. So I'm still on a high from that.
No, indeed. Ema's right there. The stars are here. This is like we don't mess around when we come to awards night. It's like a stars. I feel like, Barry, we should have... Someone tweeted us, didn't they, saying, are we going to go like suited and things like that for this? Maybe we should have. It's a bit too hot for that, though. I've got to be honest. To be coming out in suits and things like that. So maybe...
Absolutely not. Under no circumstances are we getting suited and booted for this award show. When you start making the awards and we're actually handing them out, then I'll get dressed up. Until then, you can make do my red Adidas top and lump it.
I was going to say, me and you have both gone for pretty much exactly the same shirt, just a different colour. You've gone for the red, I've gone for the white.
To be fair, with yours being white and black, you could almost say that it's like a bit more formal, like, you know, black tie kind of thing. So, to be fair, Connor, as our little ringleader tonight, you have dressed up for us. So, thank you.
Just before we get onto the serious stuff and talk about all of the, I guess, who's in the top 5 and all that kind of thing, George should put their dreams 5-a-side team. Who's playing where in this 5-a-side team between us 5 here?
I'm left back. Quick left back. That's where I always was at school. So I've got
anywhere in defence. Anywhere in defence.
So we got
a left back in a 5-a-side.
Well, I'll just boss that whole
left side of defence.
Okay, well, we've got left back and right back there, so we're going to do like a 2-1-1.
So who's going in goal out of the 3 of us?
I feel like if we're going to do this properly, Connor's got to go in goal, because even though he's relatively short, the hair will make up the distance.
I was thinking he's probably the tallest just about out of the 3 of us.
So he's got to go in goal. Jess is the only person that I'm aware of that has played. She's played at the highest level, I think, out of the 5 of us. So she can pretty much play where she wants. How do I know that?
Yeah, Charlie might be ex-England internationally.
Well, I'm not.
She used to play for the mighty Northwich Victoria, didn't she?
I'm not. I'm just annoyed that you didn't just double check that before assuming correctly. But still, ask.
Well, as we well know, Charlie, you're a teacher just like me, and as we all know, those who can't do teach. So that's us. So we're not playing the football. I don't know about Keris, but she's only young, so I'm assuming that she hasn't, gone too far down that road.
I'd like to think that my career's still like progressing, Barry. I'm going to get that England call up any day now.
Exactly. So I feel like Charlie can go in defence. I'll be like the sort of the holding midfielder, so I haven't got to move too much. Kerris in the midfield and Jess up top. Winner.
Oh, no. I couldn't like picture this in my head. This is not how I thought the show would start. I couldn't even like imagine us five doing five sides.
If the 5 of us are on a 5-a-side pitch, I think something somewhere else has gone terribly, terribly wrong. Like something bad is happening, like, I don't know, end of the world kind of stuff for the 5 of us to be on a 5-a-side pitch.
Can I just take a moment to point out, 1, I am a teacher. 2, I was just trying to shut Charlie up nicely.
Oh dear, yeah, I can see that as well. There we go. If we hit 3K subs by the end of the year, we'll set this up. We'll do a little 5-a-side tournament, and this will be the AFU team. We'll hire out some pitches and we'll do this. There we go. Let's get that bandwagon rolling. No, it doesn't, Emily. I've never done a show and it's gone how I've planned. However, I think I wouldn't say pro. That's bigging her up a little bit. Sorry, Mia, if you're watching. I wouldn't go that far. But, you know, I got in there before Jess said that.
I was going to say, I hope that she doesn't see this because her head does not need to get any bigger.
Yes, I think we're onto something here. I think we can get a little thing going. Right. Oh, hang on. Do you want to quickly answer that, Jess, before we go into the...
I played for the Crew Academy. So I was in academy football when I was younger. Then played their open age team, adult team for a bit. Then Altrincham and then Northwich. And now I don't play for anyone.
And got a goal in the FA Cup, I believe.
Yes, of course. Thanks, Connor. How could I forget that? I did. Don't remember who against. Don't remember what happened, but I just know that it happened.
That's amazing. I won a game of cuppies in the summer of 1998 in Oakwood, Derbyshire. So
yeah, I'd like to add that I scored from behind the halfway line when I was about 12. And nice. I've scored like maybe 2 goals since then, but I'll be bringing that one up for the rest of my life. So it's basically the same thing as Jess's, I would say.
Agreed.
Melissa has confirmed Mia is not watching, so she's gonna have to watch that one back. Someone's definitely going to send it to her though. Oh, that one. Right, let's get it. We're going to start with goal of the season, as we usually do. We've got some honourable mentions. So these were goals. There's 3 of them that did get votes, however, didn't make the top 5. And the top 5 changed literally about an hour ago because of some late votes. So that pushed a couple of positions around. As I said, it's very, very close from 5th to 2nd. However, 3 goals that did get votes for that didn't quite make the top 5. I'll let anyone start. In fact, no, Jess, I'll let you start off on this one. I'll put them along the bottom of the screen there. Lucia Garcia in the semi-final and 2 Mallard goals, one against Arsenal, 1 against PSG. Surprised? Are you happy that they, I guess, mentioned at least, did get some votes on the board, so at least there we can talk about them on here?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, all of them were really good goals. I think especially Mallard. It's Mallard against PSG that I'm really happy was mentioned. I didn't vote for it in any of my sort of goals of the season, but I think just as our introduction to European football, I think, to be honest with you, I think just being able to score a goal in Europe is kind of a little bit of an achievement. Obviously, we were disappointed we couldn't push on further, but it's really good that we at least got something out of our very brief experience in Europe, and hopefully within the next few years we'll have kicked on a little bit more there.
Yeah, I mean, Kerris, I'll throw it over to yourself as well. Obviously, the semi-final goal was in there as well. That moment, a minute in against Chelsea, I have a feeling it was either you or someone in your family.
Mine, yeah, that was what.
There we go. I knew that you voted for that one. So I'll ask you then, how come that goal over maybe some of the other ones that we've seen in this that's potentially going to come in this list?
To be fair, maybe it wasn't so much because of the technical quality. I think technically it was an excellent. I think the move for the goal was brilliant. The assist from Galton was what really stood out, and the composure from Garcia 1 minute into an FA Cup semi-final to be able to put it away was fantastic. So technically it was a great goal, but I think the main reason I voted for it was just because it was the second one that came into my head because of the moment and because I literally don't think I've ever gone as mental at a goal in my entire life. So yeah, that was why it was mine. Perhaps not the most technical or analytical of reasons, but I'm surprised that not many people put it purely for that reason.
I mean, RC straight in there with the save of the season. Barry saving Charlie, definitely at Wembley. On that
You're
one.
welcome.
Barry, I may as well come to you then. You know, as Georgia said there, you know, it was our first ever Champions League goal, the Mallard one against PSG. So are you happy that those three are at least mentioned in this list? That, you know, at least we get to talk about them, you know, because they're on the list with votes.
Yes, I'm pleased they're mentioned. I'm more pleased that the goal that I went for isn't there, because that means either one, it's in the top three, or two, I've been entirely mugged off, in which case I'll be out of here. So we're going to see which level you've gone to here. But yeah, listen, they were great goals. There's not been a plethora of highs when it comes to these sort of moments. But yeah, I think really pleased. And like you said, the fact that we've had our first one in the Champions League, somewhere that we've not been before, massive. So love it.
Charlie, anything to add on those three in particular? So 2 Mallard goals in there, you know, for a loanee to have 2 goals voted for by our lovely audience is quite something.
I in hindsight, I did really like the one against Arsenal. I think that was always, she had no right to get there really, but she just sort of bullied past. Was it Illerstedt and some other Arsenal blonde centre back, I'd imagine. But yeah, really announced herself on the scene. I thought that was a good goal from her actually. Thinking back to it, that was good. That was when we thought we were still going to be good. That's in the season, wasn't it? Oh, remember then? That was good, wasn't it? But yeah, all good goals. Garcia, just for the absolute limbs that came off the back of that, was brilliant. But yeah, not surprised that they got votes and bits and pieces.
No, definitely. And me personally, I'm happy to see those in. That Garcia one, I think, is definitely a moment, you know, when we talk about that first ever goal. You know, Mallard's, it was pretty much, wasn't it like one of her first touches as well? You know, the Arsenal goal. You know, pretty much comes on, pokes around the keeper, and the first ever Champions League goal. You know, you're not going to forget that in a hurry either. There was a comment a bit further up. I think I've lost it already. I definitely should have started it. There's people talking about player of the season already. We'll get to that. Don't you worry on that one. I'm just double checking to see how many they were off the top 5. Okay, so Garcia was one off this one that snuck into the top 5. So as voted.
Now that you've gone through the GOTS, does that mean we're going through the needs next?
Is this a film reference I'm just not going to get?
No, it's stickers reference. You know what stickers are, surely. Did you never sit there in the playground and got, need, got? You always put them into 2 piles, then you go through your.
I mean, we did something like that, but we never said it like that.
What'd you say?
Say it then.
I don't know, but like, I don't know. That's not what I thought you were
going to
go
Other words
down.
could you possibly use other than got for I've got that and need for I need that?
How was like supposed to get playing cards from got, need? Like, what is that? Move on.
Move on.
Anyway, so there was a comment that I think NT just asked us where these were voted for. So it was on our Twitter, it was on our Instagram and our TikTok. So there was 3 different platforms we did put it out on. People were replying on our live streams on TikTok. They've been replying to our Instagram, sending us messages, sending us messages on Twitter, and voting under the Twitter thing. So that's where all these have come from. And I've put it into a list. Collated all the votes into this top 5. So sneaking into the top 5, as I said, by 1 vote. Ella versus Brighton earlier on in the season. For those of you who may have forgotten this game, because it wasn't a great game to remember, the 2-2 draw down there. It was a Rachel Williams late equaliser to salvage a point down there. After Ella had equalised, and then Brighton went at the other end minutes later and scored, and we were all just like, oh, well, that's going to go under the radar. Charlie, I'll start off with yourself first this time. Are you happy that's in the top 5? I mean, that to me, that's one of the best strikes of the list.
Yeah. She scored a number of goals like that this season, hasn't she? Some of them may crop up, so it's almost what you come to expect from her. But yeah, it was. I had to be honest, you saying that now, I completely forgot about that one as well. But probably for the reason that you said, in that Brighton then immediately went and equalised, and we threw some points. Well, went ahead. Did they go ahead? I think they may have went ahead, and then we had to rely on Rachel Williams again to get us out of it. But yeah, she scored a number of worldies this season. That was just yet another one. I'm feeling like I might regret all of my votes for everything, because every time, so far, literally everything's been mentioned, including the 3 that didn't quite get in the top 5. I'm like, oh yes, I should have been less impulsive when I made my votes. Maybe, I don't know.
Someone mentioned earlier on, this is just going to be a Tooney list, and Erling said that I think top 5 for at least 3 Tooney goals. I mean, Barry, I'll throw it around to yourself and on this one. Again, like I stand by, to me, this is one of the best technically we've scored this season. And it came at a good time for Tooney as well, because she was struggling a bit. There was a lot of questions over her at the time, whether she should be starting games and things like that. And she goes and does this.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, that's the thing, isn't it? I can remember us having the age-old debate on the shows. Should Ella Toon be dropped? Should somebody else be coming in? And the thing is that her stats have been quite good overall this season. It's just been that, that good old-fashioned eye test that people talk about. It is very easy to go under the radar. We've got a couple of players that happens to. But it was a good goal. Ella Toon doesn't really seem to do tap-ins, does she? If she's going to get on the score sheet, it tends to be a good goal. She doesn't tend to be the one who just runs in at the far post and just sort of taps it in when there's no one around. Hence why she's probably got 4 of the top 5 nailed on. So I'm excited to see what the top 4 are going to be, but I'm also pleased that we're still not on my goal yet. So that means it's made the top 4.
I can't remember what you went for. I'll come once we've gone through the top 5. I'll ask.
It was against Whistler.
Oh yes, I know now. Actually, I'll go through the panel in terms of what we all voted for as well in just a second. Keris, this goal in particular, as I said, it was quite a while ago. I'm trying to think when this game was. It must have been October.
I remember watching this game because I had to force my City supporting partner to watch it because we were at his house. And I remember jumping around, and then obviously they immediately scored. I completely wiped that from my memory. But yeah, that was a great goal. It was such a shame that it got sort of immediately chalked off straight after. But I think Toon's technique on her finishing from range this season has become such a lethal weapon that other teams are so scared of now. And it's just great to see. She's always been a really valuable player to the team, but to see her get back up in her goal scoring as well, I think it does wonders for her confidence. And I agree that was the start of that, I reckon.
And Jess, anything to add on this one in particular? There's a lot of comments saying Toon doesn't, as Barry just said, she doesn't do easy goals. She taps it in from 20 yards or further.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think it was just the technique. She didn't really have a lot of space. From what I remember about that goal, she sort of receives the ball, almost turns on it, and it's nearly stuck under her feet, really, because of the where she is and the amount and the lack of space that she's got, and yet she still manages to basically smash it top bins from outside the box. I think, all the best goals this season actually came from her. To be fair, I think she had a really good season once she kind of got into the swing of things, and I think this was a really important turning point for her for then the whole season. But a player of her talent, that's what you kind of expect, and it's why you shouldn't, get down on people too much if they are just having a bad run of form, because she can give you moments like that, and essentially, she is the sort of player that can win you a game, and it is just a shame that in that particular game, it kind of meant nothing in the end, and is probably from a more forgettable game from the season as well.
Yeah, I do wonder if this goal was a bit earlier or a bit later, in the season, whether it had been higher up the list, because when I say there's a gap, there's a big, you'll see it when I'll tweet the percentages later on. There's a huge gap now to the top 4. The kind of between that one and the ones that were mentioned, there's a vote each, but now there's a big jump to the top 4, which we now have a tied for 4th, and there is only 2 votes between 4th and 2nd. So as I said, this was swinging back and forth. So these 4 goals are pretty close in terms of the votes. So who shall I start with this time? So Keris, I'm going to come to you first. Joint 4th, Lisa Nelson versus Brighton and Rachel Williams in the semi-final. Again, the goal that sent us to Wembley, a goal that is worthy of getting us to Wembley in the Lisa Nelson one. Are you happy? Are they about where you'd expect those two to be?
Yeah, no, I'd take those definitely. I mean, again, I think Rach is in the semi-final. I mean, it was practically a carbon copy of Garcia's goal, right? Neither of them were like the most technically astonishing goals we've ever scored, but we looked really confident in the way we attacked, and obviously just the absolute kind of scenes it created as well were brilliant. So yeah, definitely happy with that one. Nelson versus Brighton, I will confess to not actually having seen because I was working that night. So I'll pass that on to someone else for comment. I had that in my headphones when I was at work, so I haven't actually watched it.
I mean, Charlie, I come to you because obviously you just admitted with that Lisa goal in particular, we were right behind that. You know, the strike into that far right-hand corner. For me, well, I'll spoiler alert, that was one of my votes because for me, that was just an exceptional finish into the far right corner.
It was amazing, wasn't it? She took a touch and it was probably from a difficult angle in the sense that there was a lot of bodies in the way. And I think there were players screaming for her to lay it off. But yeah, it was a brilliant goal, like just curled into the inside the right hand post, didn't it? It was really, really good and kind of epitomised how she was playing during that period. She's probably one of our standout performers over that sort of 3 or 4 week period. But the goal was incredible, and I wouldn't have been surprised if it had finished higher up. I think there's going to be goals above it that perhaps, I don't know, maybe technically aren't quite as good or on a par, but because of what they meant for the club, ended up getting more votes. And yeah, I think Rachel's second one in that semi-final against Chelsea was the one that allowed us to kind of dream a little bit that we were going to make it through. Because I think with Rachel's, it was probably her header in the final was more impressive because of all the power she had to put on it and the placement when you think about it. But yeah, again, not surprised it's there just because we were maybe allowing ourselves to think, oh my word, like we might actually beat Chelsea, and it ended up being the goal that decided it, which was brilliant.
Yeah, and Jess, I'll throw it to yourself and Barry following. That's what that, as everyone's saying in the chat, Marie's obviously saying that Williams goal superb assist and just mad. I remember being in the ground and it just the whole place just erupted at that second goal because I don't think any of us expected to go 2-0 up against Chelsea in the manner that we did so early in the game. I think it was only 20-30 minutes at that point. It was still on the not. But yeah, I mean, if you want to talk us through both of those goals, both in the FA Cup and on that run to end up lifting it in the end.
Yeah, I mean, I think Nelson's goal, just sort of from a technical standpoint, was just kind of fantastic. It really finished off the game. And like Charlie mentioned previously, it did kind of epitomise that period of time she was having. I think she really did have a run of good games for us. And I think with kind of how little we saw her on the previous season, I think getting to see her like at her full potential was really great to see. And I think she deserved that goal and she deserved like a place basically in this list because it was such a fantastic goal. I think the Rachel Williams goal against Chelsea in the semi was just mental. And like you say, Connor, it was the first time that I was like, oh my God, we might actually do this. Obviously, I was stuck on a train on my way back from London, so I was watching it on a phone. And I was trying so hard not to scream on the train. I kept losing signal. It was very stressful. But at that point, I was like, oh my God, like we could actually kind of do this. At 1-0, you're just waiting for them to equalise, really. A team as good as Chelsea. But 2-0, you're thinking, right, well, at least we've got a tiny bit of a buffer. And I think that was the first point. In fact, the first time against Chelsea in general that I've thought like, oh my God, we could actually do this and get back into the final. And yeah, that goal just blew my mind. I don't think it was necessarily like the best goal she's ever scored, but I think just for what it meant in that game, essentially it got us to Wembley and kind of won us the cup, really. So yeah, I'm obsessed with that goal, to be honest, just because of how it made me feel and how I think it probably made all United fans feel.
Well, we've hit the point where my choice has begun scrolling across the bottom. It wasn't the Rachel Williams goal because that's an emotional goal, I think, more than anything else. My goal of the season was the Nelson one. I think it was the moment that she sort of broke out of the shadow of the rest of the midfield, really, because she hadn't been given too much of an opportunity. And the moment she scored that goal, it just kind of put her on the map and gave her that opportunity to play more often. So I think for me, that was the reason really why I went for that one, and also because I know that the vast majority of the world, I could already guess what goal they were going to go for. So even though in my mind I could have gone for that, listen, we've got a show to make, folks, haven't we? Really? So sometimes you've got to think outside the box and not be a sheep. So I am not one of those. So I chose not to do that. I went for this one, Lisa Nielsen, because also I was there. I know I was there for the other one as well. That's not the point, but I was there for this one. And I just remember turning to you and your magnificent quiff and going, me, that was a good goal. And it was a very good goal. So that's my one. The Williams one, for pure emotion, bloody brilliant.
I think that's the thing. When we did this last year, obviously Alessia Russo's goal versus Arsenal won our goal of the season last year. And again, technically, probably wasn't the best that we had last season, but the emotion of it carried it to number one. And I think that Williams one has probably carried it to joint fourth because of that reason. What's everyone saying in the chat? I'm assuming you're on about Toon's goal in that game was top. Is that Brighton? Did she score in the semi-final? In the quarter-final even? I don't remember a goal against Brighton if she did. I'm trying to think about well, scored. I can't remember. Sorry, Ed, so you might have to expand on that one because I genuinely can't remember which goal you're on about.
You have to go back and watch the TikTok. I know that we got something wrong there. I feel like this is the one where Mike Lyle got Toon mixed up with Mallard.
Mallard definitely scored. I'm sure she did, didn't she?
I thought she did, but then I think
Mallard
it turned out
definitely scored, yeah.
The
commentators at Brighton got Lisa Nielsen mixed up with Millie Turner because, as I said, I was listening to it on the radio and I was texting my dad going, "Oh my God, Millie scored." He was like, "What are you talking about?" So that was the one.
I think George is right, potentially. This is all very confusing. You've thrown a right spanner in this. You've got me going back now. Let's have a look. When did we play them? It was March, wasn't it?
Award-winning content right here.
It's down as Turner, Paris, Garcia, and Narsund. So that's what it's got down as. Anyway, we'll move on to the top three. Now, I'm pretty sure people can probably surmise as to what these three are. And probably what order as well. As soon as I reveal third, I think it's going to be pretty obvious what number one and number two is. But we'll get to that. Don't you worry. Don't be throwing in there, oh, I know what number one is. We'll get there. Don't worry. We've got lots to say on that, I'm sure. So the first one with a graphic, the first one of the day, I'm going to get the tweet ready as well because I like doing it at exactly the same time if I haven't already deleted the draft. There it is. Third place then. What do we reckon? Of course, it's Ella Toon's goal. Sorry, I'm covering half of you up. Ella Toon's goal versus Leicester. How else do we describe? I'm not even going to describe it. I'm going to let you guys describe it while I put the ticker on the bottom. And who should we start? Charlie, do you want to start with this one? Because in a game of little quality,
it's boring.
that was quite something.
That was a dreadful game of football, but an absolutely incredible goal from her. Amazing. Leicester just stepped off her, didn't they, and just let her approach the box. Just incredible. And again, yeah, worthy of being there. I'm surprised it's so high, but only because, again, I'm starting to think now the one I voted for isn't in the top three. Is it? I'll find out in a minute. There's not long to go.
I'm going to go back and check now.
Yes, yeah, an absolutely incredible goal from her. Keeper stood no chance. Absolutely brilliant, but very dull goal. And not surprising that Ella Toon, the clutch player that she is, came up with the goods with not long to go.
Jess, I'll throw it over to yourself. I mean, yeah, Erling's already talking about number one. We'll get to that. As George saying there, it was a dire game to watch. I can't lie. But I mean, we had obviously I don't know. Well, you obviously weren't at this one, but where we were stood, it was the perfect angle for this goal.
Yeah, I mean, it was a fantastic goal, and it was just kind of typical of her goals this season. Just sort of ridiculous. The game itself is completely forgettable. In fact, it probably, as a whole, that game kind of sums up our season. Largely forgettable with a few individual great moments kind of thrown in, to be honest. I think it epitomizes our season as a whole. But again, like I said before, on the last goal we mentioned with Ella Toon scored, I think it takes like world-class players sometimes. And that's why you have your players like Ella Toon to just come along and basically make something from nothing. And it does just sometimes take a little moment of magic to kind of win you a game and get you over the line. You know, the games might not always be really pretty. It might not be easy. You know, we might make it difficult for ourselves. But for the most part, having a player like Ella Toon on the pitch does at least mean that in moments like that, you've got a very good chance of someone just creating something from nothing, basically, and bagging us a winner.
Yeah, Kerrison and Barry following on this one. I said everyone's assuming Ella Toon's made a 1-2-3 here. Again, we'll come to second in just a sec. But Kerris, I mean, this goal, I kind of had a feeling this one was probably going to be up there. You know, it's right in the top. You could not get more in that top corner.
Yeah, no, it was brilliant. I mean, it was, as everyone has pointed out, was not the greatest game of football I've ever watched in my life. Especially having forked out like however much I did for a train ticket to Leicester, I was thinking something really spectacular needs to happen within these last sort of 20 minutes for my train fare to have been fully justified. And she really came through this one. I mean, it was an incredible strike. It was a little like trailer for Wembley in a way. And yeah, I just think that's what she's been for us this season. Like, she's come in the moments where we have just needed a random bit of quality, even when, as I think Jess said, the performance hasn't necessarily been the best overall. She has been the player in a lot of games that has come through and saved it for us. And I think it's obviously not where we want to be, that we're relying on kind of clutch players in the last minutes, but this season that's been so valuable.
Yeah, I've said it all along. When it comes to Ella Toon, she's the player who you just have to start, because you know that even if she has 89 minutes of absolute dross, she's likely to come up with a minute that could well win you the game with a moment of magic. And that's pretty much what happened here. You know, it wasn't a great game. I'll be honest, I'd forgotten about this one. It wasn't saved in my memory bank. It wasn't, even looking at it now, I've needed you to remind me again what had happened. But I can see it in my mind's eye now, and it was a very good goal. But I'm just going to go and sulk because I still think Nelson's was better. But there we go.
This is going to be really interesting because people have just reminded me in the chat. There's a couple of comments about it. Which other two? There's no more ties. So one of those goals that you three are mentioning in the chat has not made any votes at all, because they weren't even in the honourable mentions either. So they've not got a single vote for one of these, which you will now find out.
Surely the people in the chat must have voted. What's going on here?
Well, I think there was an assumption
infiltrating again.
I think there was an assumption that certain goals might have got them here, because one of those has missed out and not got a single vote. So should we just? I'll put everyone out their misery. Second place, and then you can summarise which one has missed out. Millie Turner versus West Ham. For those of you who remember this one, I think we were all looking at it and thinking, why is Millie Turner up there? Or is she doing that high up the pitch? And then puts it right into the top corner. This was one of the only home games I missed this season, and I'm gutted that I missed this one, because what a goal that would have been to see. Who wants to start us off on this one? And Millie Turner's, I guess, how do you even summarise this one? Like, I just remember watching it back and thinking, what is she doing there?
I voted for this one. Yeah, because she was running the overlap on the left hand side, which was just bizarre. And then Tooney played a nice little through ball to her, which was picked up on the edge of the box. I remember turning to Shane, who always stand with at games, being like, "Who's that? Who's got that?" We thought it was Lisa at first, the blonde person further forward. Couldn't believe it. What a splendid goal that was. Just absolutely left Mackenzie Arnold flat-footed. She was probably thinking as well, what on earth is Millie Turner doing there and doing something that's not a header? It was that was my I think that was my favourite. That was my favourite goal of the whole season. I think technically incredible from her as well, so good. And I always love her celebrations. And I love that other players were like couldn't believe it had happened. Everything about that was brilliant. That was one that I watched back loads of times just to see everyone's reactions. But it was amazing, that goal. Anyone else scores that, any other player, and everyone's just going nuts. If an attacker scores that, that's getting talked about all season. It was just amazing from her.
Jess, do you want to follow in on this one? I mean, people have obviously surmised like which one has missed out, and yes, I mean you might be wrong. You know, who knows? We could have a real shock on our hands for number one here. You never know. But Jess, I mean, this goal, you know, as I think George has put it there, like when she's, you know, going forward, it's like, you know, where are you going? And she doesn't just finish it into the top corner. She like shrugs off a defender as well, like knocks it past a defender and puts it right into the far right corner. It's an unbelievable finish.
Yeah, it was kind of ridiculous. I remember being at this game with my friends and I was just like, did Millie Turner just score that? I was like, no, surely not, because that was, I mean, that was just not a defender's goal. From like even the overlap, like you can expect, I don't know, like a fullback to be doing that, you know, like a left or right wing back or something, you know, to be running that kind of way forward, pulling the overlap. But that was just bizarre, almost bizarre. It was like a bit of a fever dream, but absolutely fantastic, like phenomenal. And again, like it wasn't even just her movement and the way she ran all the way from like defense. It was the fact that she managed to basically like chip Mackenzie Arnold almost and go top bins. And kind of like you said, kind of like shrug off a defender. Like actually insane. This was one of my votes for goal of the season purely because it was just, I think it was a really good team goal, you know, the run moving forward. You know, Millie Turner's movement for this goal was ridiculous. She should not be doing whatever she did. Like technically she should not be doing it. But fair dues, if you are going to make a run like that, then you've got to have, you know, a bit of end product. And boy, she absolutely smashed that. So yes, this goal was one of my votes. And who would have thought it that a centre-back would be basically one of our goals of the season?
No, definitely. Someone's just asked if that was our only goal of the season. It wasn't. It might have been in the WSL, but it wasn't our only goal of the season. She definitely scored she scored in that game against Brighton, didn't she? The 4-0 away down there. So she definitely has other goals this season. Just maybe not. I don't think she scored another one in WSL, or not that I can think of anyway. Not off the top of my head. Barry, what do you make of this one then? Do you think this is rightfully in at number 2?
I can't disagree with it. Much like Marie, I only picked one. I think because deep down I knew it was going to win, so I just kind of went, what's the point? Are you voting for anything else? I think what I would put for this one is that Millie Turner channeled her inner Ella Toon. And on that day, she was Millie Tuna. And very good she was too. Superb goal. Well done. Well played, Millie Turner. We'll have more of those next season, please.
I don't know how to follow that. Keris, try and follow that one.
Yeah, I mean, you got sort of coming to me last. The one you've come to me first on, I didn't see, and the ones you coming to me last on, everyone else already said everything. So yeah, no.
I'll come to you first on the next one.
Okay, cool.
Come to me last, and I can always make up rubbish.
Yeah, no. I think it's just what everyone else said. Really, like it was such a like technically great goal that we would have been happy with even from a winger. But it was the same as like, you know, as everyone was saying, it's like you see her on the edge of the box, you're like, you're a bit far from home, like what's happening here? And then she did that. It was fantastic. So yeah, it was brilliant. I think as well, like from an emotional point of view, like seeing how happy the rest of the team always are whenever she scores is always like fantastic. You can tell like her personality and like how loved she is by everyone in the squad by the fact that every time she scores, everyone is just so thrilled for her. So yeah, thoroughly agree with that one.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think for me, this was my other vote because I knew which one was going to win. So I kind of went for this one and the Lisa Nelson one on that one. See, Mia's come into the chat now. It's typical, isn't it? As soon as we bring up Millie Turner and the goal she scored against West Ham, two things that are very close to Mia's heart. Straight in there, straight into the chat. So it's good to have you, Mia. I hope everything's good over on that side. Yes. Who else scored in that game? Jay scored in that one as well, didn't she? She scored the first, I think. So I mean, that game was just so good.
I think Paris might have scored 2. but I could be talking absolute rubbish, and then I can't remember who else.
There's a brilliant reaction of you, Mia. It's I wish I had to hand that I could put on screen right now of your reaction to that goal because it's just brilliant. There we go. What a collection of scorers that is. I'm gutted I missed that. I really am. Yeah, maybe don't do that on that one. So yes, Millie Turner, goal number 2. Now, is there any surprise what we think is going to be at number 1? Now, when I say this one won by a landslide, when we tweet the percent, this got nearly over half of the votes. And considering there's 9 goals, that is very impressive to have pretty much half of the vote. Any surprise? Obviously, Ella Toon versus Spurs, FA Cup final, Wembley. This is a perfect photo, by the way. I was so happy I chose this because, as you can see, Rachel Williams always pushing the defender out of the way to get out of the way of that. Proper centre-forward play. Who wants to go first in this one? We were all there. It just, well, that to me won us the FA Cup because we were struggling a little bit in the game right on half-time, and the atmosphere in the concourse at half-time was unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to talk about the atmosphere in the concourse again because I got mocked by Connor last time I did. But no, that goal was just, I think everyone around me was getting really frustrated. You could hear a lot of frustration that we were going back, not forward, that we were not cutting out the pass to the winner, to the winger even. Like, it was, everyone was just starting to feel a little bit, are we going to throw this? And then it feels like as soon as that goal went in, that belief really just kicked in from the whole side, and it knocked the stuffing like out of the Spurs end completely. The game was completely different after that, obviously, but it just completely, it really transformed, I think, the mood in the United end and definitely in Spurs end as well. I don't think their players really thought there was any coming back after that, and she's just such a big game player. You know, for an academy player who's come up through the ranks like that, to score for United at Wembley was absolutely fantastic. And she could not have scored it at a better moment. The finish, technically, obviously, couldn't have been improved. So, yeah, not surprised this one has won. It was one of my votes because I am unoriginal. So, yeah.
I was waiting to see who wanted to make the jump.
But I was just a bit slow, to be honest. So that was my fault for not moving quick enough. This goal, honestly, like, best moment of my life. I think me and Connor were stood next to each other and we were stressed. Like, things weren't really looking good. Like, we can kind of look back on the game now and think that it was easy. But that first 45 minutes, other than about the last 20 seconds, we were not fantastic, particularly. And I was still thinking, God, this really could go either way. You know, obviously, we should have won. You know, I think we should have done. We were probably technically the better team, had the better players, whatever. But we weren't particularly playing like it. And, like, growing up, I was always told, like, you know, watching football, like, oh, the best time to get a goal is just before half time. And I have never seen it, like, embodied so much in a game, because I have never, like, seen a goal go in just before half time and, like, it was like we'd won the game there and then. I think if that had just been like a scrappy tapping or something, don't get me wrong, we would have been happy. But I don't think we would have, like, as fans or potentially even the players, gone in at half time with like the same energy. Because I have never, I'm going to go all like, oh, the atmosphere was electric. I've never experienced anything like it. You know, that meme that we took the mick out of Keris for the other week. But it was like that, seriously. Like, I need that little lad talking about it because honestly, I've never gone in at half time. It was only 1-0 at that point. You know, it wasn't massive. But going in at half time, like, everyone was just absolutely buzzing. It was just, yeah, for me, just, I think, such a good goal. Obviously, the occasion was massive. We talk again about a big game player. But from where I was stood, I could see the curl on it. And I just remember, like, screaming afterwards, like, oh my God, like, that was such a good goal. Like, that is ridiculous. Like, that was insane. Like, such a good goal. Like, the curl on it was just mad. So yeah, I could just talk about it forever. I think, to be honest, I don't know how many times I've watched it back, but I think that was it. That was like a turning point in the game. Came at the right point, and yeah, perfect goal, perfect occasion, 10-10. That was my choice as well, obviously, for my number one choice.
Yeah, I voted for that as well. I don't think the best goalkeeper in the world was getting anywhere near that because the placement couldn't have been any better. Obviously, I missed it because I'd gone to the toilet. So I'm ever grateful for. It was nerves. It was absolute nerves. I was a shambles. So I'm really grateful. Connor, you got the best footage ever because the curl on it was absolutely monster. But I think the whole build-up play was brilliant. I think Hannah nicked it off a Spurs play, hadn't she, pretty much in our box, and then laid it off to Zellum. It was just really quick football to Nalsund, who spotted Tooney's run. I really loved the Spurs player just doing the most ridiculous, like sliding in out of nowhere thing. Not even anywhere near Tooney, as if that was going to work. Just bizarre. And yeah, just what a way to score at Wembley for your childhood club. Just amazing. And you're both right. It just completely changed the momentum of the game, didn't it? Because Spurs weren't offering a lot anyway, but I think that probably paid any mind to them sort of producing or doing anything. And I'm going to say it, the concourse was outstanding, ladies and gents. Outstanding. And if you watch footage from like the Fellas FA Cup final, when we went in 2-0 up, it was like that. There was no difference. If you didn't know which game was which, no one would have gone. That was the women's game and that was the men's game. It was absolutely phenomenal. I loved it.
So many thoughts were going through my mind during this. Tooney hadn't actually had at that point the best of games. We were struggling going forward. We hadn't quite managed to break the Tottenham defence, despite the fact that we looked like the only team that wanted to go on and win it. Little reverse pass from Nalsund. She sticks some of them down, which, let's be honest, is delightful. Shifts it over to the right-hand side, and then she shoots. And instinctively in my mind, I went, oh, for God's sake. And then I watched it sort of in slow motion, and I'm thinking this is going to hit the top corner, as in post and bar. That's where it was looking like it was going. I'm like, I'm winning it. I'm going like this. I'm going, go in, go in, go in. So you're welcome, because it worked. And in it went, top corner, at which point a flood of emotion came over me. The first of which was just how fantastic it was of a goal. The second was, where the bloody hell is Charlie? I can't believe she's missed this. She calls it nerves. I think she spells nerves Fosters, and it comes in a pint glass. It's got nothing to do with nerves whatsoever.
Don't drink Fosters. Grow up.
Grow up.
Ugh.
Oldest bloke on the show. Grow up. Okay, what would you drink then? Tell the world so they know what to buy you when they see you next.
I think it was Carling. Only means
that much better. Absolutely, yes.
£7 a can. If anyone's interested.
Outrageous. Other lagers are available, of course. But I like Foster's. Not as good as Budweiser. But anyway. And then, yeah, what a goal. And I just didn't know what to do with myself at that point. This was the thing about being stood where Charlie and I were, is that all the action was happening in front of us, which was absolutely superb. It was an unimpeded view. But all of the celebrations were happening behind us, really. Because it was a hell of a jump, although Charlie did try that, to get to the other part in front. So we just had to keep turning around. It was honestly amazing. It really was just absolutely wonderful. The atmosphere was amazing. It was so good that Jess went out for her very own Carlin /Fosters /Budweiser and didn't come back for another 3 to 5 business days. You lot nearly missed the second amazing goal. But yeah, it was brilliant.
Hang on, I just want to say that was Connor's fault. I was waiting for him to get a bottle of water or something in a queue.
Hang about. Didn't you want a big bag of Chris and Mia was after another lager as well or something?
Yeah, no, to be fair, what actually happened was me and Mia went and got a couple of drinks just to calm the nerves.
I don't want to be that person, but when I came out to the concourse and everybody was singing, I distinctly heard you and Mia go, we're going to get a drink.
Yeah.
Connor was in the middle of signing autographs.
Yeah.
He said nothing.
Yeah, and then we were making Connor buy us a family bag of crisps, so me and Mia could share some. We've not eaten all day.
I turned as soon as I'd like stopped jumping after that goal went in. I turned to my parents and said, "That's why you don't leave before half time." I am a not leaving before half time purist, I'm afraid. So I got absolutely no sympathy.
To be honest, though, if Charlie is drinking Carlin, all I would say about Ella Toon and her goal was that Carlin don't make fantastic banging goals, but if they did, that would be the one.
No, indeed, on that one. Now, quick headphone warning. Charlie referenced the footage that I got of the goal, and because this probably is going to be the last time I get to play this, and I'm never sick of playing this, this is going to look weird because it's a narrow video. So me and Barry and Keris and Charlie are probably going to be either side of this goal. So
Can we move us?
Should we take us all out?
So let's put Charlie over here because she didn't get to see it properly first time. You need to get your head over a bit more. Well done. And then, yeah, that's it. Wicked. I don't know what we can do about Keris, but you just try and lean over.
Lean to one side. Like I said, brief headphone warning. If you're listening via headphones, you might want to turn this down a little bit because I have a feeling this is going to be quite loud. Do you know what I love in that? You can just hear me go, "Oh my god." Oh my god. That high pitched, "Oh my god," that is me. You can repeat it over and over.
Play it again. Kind of play it again.
Do you want to get it?
Filthy. Filthy.
So good, isn't it? I'm so glad I caught that because it was just, yeah. And like I said, everyone that was there, the concourse at half time was, yeah. As Jess said, it is like the meme. I've never experienced that sort of atmosphere at a game before. It is exactly that. Sorry, Keris, to bring that up again. I know you like it. I don't even want to... You were muted then, Keris. I don't think I want to know what you just said to me. But yes. Yeah. I was going to... Oh, it was 100% moment of the season for me on that one. Right, before we very, very quickly move on to player of the season, obviously Toon, his goal against Newcastle, did miss out, and Kevin did put this earlier on, Hayley Ladd's smash against Chelsea. Are there any goals that we've not mentioned that you feel like should have been in this conversation, or do you think we've pretty much got this? I say we didn't vote for all of these. This is down to you guys watching as well to get your votes in.
If there's one there that should have been there, then it's their own fault.
I was going to say.
I've very rarely had a go at the fans, but I'm sorry.
I thought tactically I voted for the other goals because I could see in the tweet replies everyone was going for Tooney at Wembley. So Paris versus Brighton, NC's gone. Which one? There was two. Or three, and she scored in the quarterfinal as well. So yeah, so I think we've got it covered. Ella Toons versus Newcastle, I think, is probably the other one that is close to that list. But there we go. I'll keep that video there because I might just end the show with that video. But we move on to player of the season. Now, I'm not going to go through every single player here because there is loads that got a vote for that haven't made the top 5. So, who wants to... Keris, I'll come to you first. Honourable mentions. So these players... Hang on, let me change my sheet so I'm on the player of the season one. I'm trying to work out how far these were. So a couple of these were only 2 votes out for the top 5. So these are players all got votes for, didn't make the top 5. So honourable mentions: Nikita Paris, Rachel Williams, Katie Zellam, Lisa Narson, Melvin Mallard, Hannah Blundell, and Mary Earp. So all of these got a vote. And it's in that order, by the way, and how. So Nikita Paris 6, Williams 7, Zellam 8, so on. So it's in that order in terms of how many votes they got. Keris, do you think that's about right? Paris is the big one for me. Yeah. I can't lie.
I mean, it feels harsh on Keats having been our top scorer to not be in the top 5. I think it probably doesn't help that because it's the end of the season. Obviously, there's players that have been fresher in all of our memories than others, and maybe that's why she's a little bit lower down. But yeah, she's been brilliant for me. Rachel Williams as well has played the role that she plays for us across all the time that she's been here so well. Katie Zellum, again, I think she's been fantastic. I think she's someone who quite often gets overlooked, quite often gets used as a punching bag, but I think it can't be underestimated how much she contributes off the ball, how much she's dictating play when it's not necessarily visible unless you're looking for it. So yeah, whizzing through these, but Lisa Nelson, I have loved watching her this season. I think she's been brilliant. Like her kind of box to box ability and her physicality has been fantastic. I think it's added something that we were really missing in the midfield. Mallard, I would have had. Well, there's, to be fair, it sounds weird to say when we've had such a poor like league season, but there is a lot of players that I would say have had great seasons. I think Mallard, we've not seen the best of her, and I'll say it until I'm blue in the face. So yeah, she's been a great number 9. And then who's the last one? Mary Earps has been Mary Earps. Like, what else is there to say about her? Some of the saves that she's pulled off. Yes, there's been ups and downs in like her season, but I think I will never, the experience of watching her basically claw back like an impossible save against Chelsea in that semi-final, where my heart pretty much stopped. I don't think that moment will ever leave me, so I'm forever indebted to her for that. But yeah, there's been a lot of players who could have been up there. I think that those ones are fair, and I'm glad they got mentions. And Blundell, sorry, I haven't mentioned her, but I'm going to run out of time. So on to you guys.
I mean, Barra, I'll throw it over to you, though. Obviously, like I said, everyone in the comments is saying that Keats is the one. I think that is probably, if there was a shout for a top 5, she's probably the one. It's top scorer this season. Are you surprised she's not in the top 5?
Well, I picked 2 people because that was the rules, and I do try to follow the rules where possible. And both of the people I chose are on this list. So, no, I'm currently questioning my life choices. Trying to wonder if there's any point in me being on the show every single week if I don't have like a vote that counts for like 6 or something like that. Little bit disappointed. Listen, nobody's going to be surprised to say that my second vote went to Katie Zellum because, as we all know, Katie Zellum is the best footballer to walk the planet, better even than Bon Mati. So, you know, that's very important that people recognise that. But I'm now going to completely contradict what I've just said with my tongue firmly in my cheek by saying that actually the person I chose for player of the season was Nikita Paris. No, Dave. For 1,000,001 reasons as well, Connor. The 2 that I'll mention are obviously the fact that she is our top goal scorer, and I think it's insane that the top goal scorer for the season hasn't made it into the top 5. And secondly, I think she received just so much negativity from certain parts of the fan base just when she arrived. And I thought that this season really did show what a fantastic player she can be. And I think the only reason why she hasn't made it into the top 5 is because the goals dried up towards the end of the season. And so as a result, although we knew she was our top goal scorer, she was our top goal scorer even in, say, January, February. And it just didn't extend out too much further. So, you know, I think that's probably the reason why. But having said that, you know, the people have spoken, and who are we to argue? So I'm very intrigued to see who this top 5 is made up of.
Yeah, just got to be better, haven't they, next time? So just yeah, it's probably a little bit, I say, like recency bias, I suppose. I think Barry's already kind of said that Paris had a glut of goals in the first half of the season and then tailed off. And people tend to focus on things nearer the back end of the season because that's what you're thinking about. I'm just going through my head trying to work out who the top 5 will be. I think I've got it. Yeah, but yeah, I'm not surprised. I'm a bit, well, I am in the sense that I thought like players like Mary Earps might just get more votes just because they're Mary Earps. That's not me saying she should be higher up. So I'm quite pleased that there's going to be a little bit of a mix up with who is in the top 5 this year. But yeah, interesting. Number 1's going to be. I voted for Zellum as well, but obviously according to some, she's dreadful. So my opinion, that is an opinion, is going to be wrong. I'll look forward to Barcelona or Real Madrid signing in the summer, and then we can say Barcelona or Real Madrid are rubbish as well. But yeah, I think Nikita Paris, if she kept scoring a few goals near the back end of the season, she might have. Stanley agrees. She might have snuck into the top 5.
Just very quickly, just before you jump in, so you mentioned Mary upset. So Mary and Hannah only got 1 vote each, which I said that's the order of how close they were. Keats was two off 5th place, which we'll get to in just a second.
So I will just go through very, very quickly. I think Keats's biggest issue, if you can call it an issue, is that she potentially tailed off in terms of performances towards the end of the season. And if people are like me, even if you're just half as bad as me, my memory is awful, like truly god awful. So I really struggle to remember things, to be honest. So that's probably for me why Paris is kind of where she is. I think Zellum, I don't know why she gets like beefed so hard, because even if you just try and be neutral, like if you look at her stats, like she finished in kind of like the top 10 of like WSL players this season, you know, kind of across the board on a lot of stats. Some of things like her passing, pass completion rate, number of passes were really, really high. So I think people that just turn around and say she's rubbish, it's lazy, to be honest. It's really, really lazy, because literally she's not. So ignoring that side of things, Williams does a job for us all the time. I'm a little bit upset she didn't make it further, to be honest. I kind of wish that I voted for her. Mallard is someone that I wish we would sign in summer, keep her on permanently. I think she's got a hell of a lot of potential. And Nalson, similar to Keats really, but almost in reverse. Like she's had some fantastic games later on this season, but maybe not enough consistency throughout. So yeah, everyone else kind of covered the other players, so I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. I think to me, I don't have too many. It just sounds weird to me having our top scorer not in the top 5. That's probably the only one I question a little bit. And I think there's probably 2 players in this top 5 that maybe I would question maybe having votes. Yes, top 5 potentially not, but we'll see them. We'll get through them. We'll get through them now. Let's move on to 5th then. I said this player just beat Nikita. Let me double check this by 2 votes. So these 2 were very close. And then there's a bit of a jump to 4th again, which is the same as the goal of the season. So 5th place, Maya Letitia. On this one, I said just outscored Keats a little bit on this one. Just quickly whiz round on this one because we've covered the backline a lot as we've gone through various other players. Is that about right for Maya this season? Again, I find this one tough because I think Maya's had some really great games, but I also think she's had some very poor errors in games, especially mixing up with Mary. So I'm surprised to see her in the top 5. I can't lie. However, I'm not against it. It's where I currently stand on this.
You say that, but wasn't Maya voted as joint player of the season?
Player.
So, you know, you might be surprised, Connor, but, you know, the people that actually play football weren't. So I'm surprised she's not higher up. And that's all I'll say on that.
No one else has got a thought? Just to move on.
I think, I didn't know which order we were going in. Okay, Connor. Right. So I think look, I'm happy to see Maya in the top 5 because I think she's been one of our sort of like, she's a player that does get overlooked sometimes, as I think defenders can be. I think that she has had, there's been times that I've not agreed with like some of her decision making necessarily. Sometimes that's been the errors at the back that you mentioned. Sometimes that's been, I think, not being as progressive as maybe I would like to see. But I think that on the whole, if you think about where we would be without her this season, in terms of some of the defending, some of the score lines where we've really had to like grind out. I mean, Chelsea in the semi-final is the obvious one, right? Where we were having to really grind out that win. I think she was an essential kind of part there. So yeah, I think props to, I think definitely there's like improvement she can make in her game, but what young player can't make improvements, right? I think she's a class act. She's a really key part of the team. So yeah, I'm happy to see her up there.
I'll jump in next. Yeah, for me, I'm really happy. I think she's got a fantastic future with the club. I think her biggest problem this season has been a lot of miscommunication with Mary Earps, to be honest. There seems to be, or early on especially, there seemed to be, I don't know, like a lack of understanding. It was almost like having two players that never played together. I don't know what had happened from last season to this season. That being said, yeah, I was just about to mention this. Her like diagonal balls and her long balls are absolutely ridiculous. Considering her age as well and being, you know, one of the youngest, she has got massive, massive potential. And the club obviously see a huge, you know, bright future for her, offering a good contract. She's obviously very popular with the players, being voted joint players player. I think that whilst this season maybe wasn't as good as last season for her, she's a really important part of the team. And I think if anything, she's improved her game going forward. You know, her long balls going forward have really been impressive this season, have been very important to us. So I'm happy with this, to be fair.
I think probably we'll find because the season for a lot of the players has been really inconsistent and they've maybe not performed to the level that they should. It might be that anyone who'd end up in the top 5, there would be a strong arguments against them being there, as there are 4, and that's why it's an interesting top 5, isn't it? Because we've not been playing at the standards that we should. But again, she's played every minute of every game in a very difficult season, and she's become a little bit of a leader this year, I think. So not surprised. I don't think there's necessarily any particular players that have played consistently better than she has all season. So in that way, it's a bit of a backhanded compliment, isn't it? No, not surprised that she's in the top 5.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. It's a good point, actually, because when we did player of the season and things like that last season, there was loads of players to pick from because of how good the season was. This season, with a poor league form in the way that we have, it's kind of a bit, I don't think any player has been consistent across the whole season. We're just kind of seeing who people thought was the most consistent out of those players. Now, moving on to number 4 then. So 4th place. This player literally got pipped to a graphic, so missed out on 3rd by 1 vote. So just missing out. Jade Riviere came in kind of in and out of the team. Has been injured throughout it. Actually has played more league games than I thought she had. She's played 15 in total, which is actually more than I thought she had. It feels like she's played less because she's had a lot of injuries. However, and I will say this was one of my votes because when she has played, for me, she has been absolutely exceptional. So I'm a little bit disappointed to see her not in the top 3, I can't lie. Charlie, I'll start with you on this one. And Jade Riviere, do you think that's about right, or would you expect her a bit higher, a bit lower?
I've got to be honest, guys. I didn't vote for her, and I said I was regretting it for the moment. I didn't, but I think the first game she came into, the Champions League game at home against PSG, which was just a bit of a horror show for her. I think it was her first sort of proper game for us post sort of all the injuries she'd had. I think I was a little bit worried at the time that she would not. I think that might have a bit of an effect on her, how she was played and where she was played in that game. But actually, she's gone from strength to strength. And you're right, you said she's played a lot more games than I think we would expect. But I think when she's not been there, it's been noticeable. Although I'm fully expecting Gemma Evans to be in the top 3 now, because I can't imagine who would be above her. But yeah, it's testament to a player that when they're not there, you notice when they're being replaced by someone else. And we've missed her when she wasn't there. And having her back for that run in and for the final, I think was hugely important to us. So the impact she's had has been colossal. Probably actually taking back what I said earlier, she's probably the one player you look at and go, had to be in the top 5, because when she's played in the league, she has been consistently strong. And again, with a better season next year, if other players can up their game and get back to the standards they had last season, I think we'll only see better from her, because she's carried things a little bit, I think, for us at times this season.
No, I agree. And I agree with George's comment. I think if she was fully fit for the whole season, I think she would easily be in the top 3 this season. And yeah, big boots to fill, as Leisha's saying that. You know, you lose Honor, one of the best fullbacks around. She's come in and, in my opinion, been well, I said at the start, one of our better players on that one. Barry, any happy with that? Surprised? What do you think on that one?
Listen, when she plays brilliant. Did she play enough? I don't know. I find it a bit bizarre that May Letizia has played every game and reasonably well. I know that Mike earlier on said, she's underperformed a bit maybe this season compared to last season. I think you could probably line all of the girls up on the wall and say that's probably the case, because otherwise we'd have finished higher than 5th. But yeah, look, she's a good player. I won't go down that rabbit hole too far. I've got other fish to fry this evening, but it's not a hill I'm willing to die on. But yeah, I'm not convinced she would have been 4th if I was doing my list. Which, like I say, Paris should be in there for me. So yeah, I respect the opinion of the fans. The people have spoken.
That's very political of Barry. I'm going to just say, yeah, I agree. She was actually one of my 2 votes. So I think that, as other people have highlighted, when you notice that much that a player is not there, and when you feel a massive amount of relief when you do see them in the starting lineup, that is an indicator of exactly how important they are to the team. I think thinking back to the Champions League match at League against PSG, remember seeing him kind of like remember seeing Skinner kind of like shouting her over to the sideline every 5 minutes because she was really struggling to deal with their winger. And I was thinking, like, okay, we're struggling to deal with this. Hopefully she grows from there. And man, has she grown from there. Like, I think against almost every team that we have played, that she has played in, I would say the scoreline would have been far worse without her. Her kind of athleticism, her ability to stretch in and slide for tackles, her kind of leadership as well, I think, and coordination with the rest of the back line in being vocal. And one of my favourite things about her is how progressive she is as well. I think when she's come in as a substitute, we've seen like the difference that it's made to how the team was playing. I'm trying to remember what game it was when she came back from injury now. Possibly Leicester. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I remember seeing and thinking how much further she was progressing the ball up the pitch with her on. So yeah, she's been hugely important for me this season. I'm happy to see her up there.
Yeah, I'll jump in. I fully agree. We've already mentioned she had big shoes to kind of step into with Honor leaving. And I think she's done a really, really good job. I think the games that she didn't play, we really missed her. I think my only sort of concern about her is kind of like injury record and things like that. But in all fairness, she's seen out the majority of the season, I think. And we, as a club, I'm talking now as United, we should have brought in more defenders in winter, and we didn't. So kind of shot ourselves in the foot maybe a little bit with that one anyway. So yeah, again, pretty happy with that choice. She would have been one of my kind of like backup choices, let's say. So yeah, really happy. I think she's had a really good season, to be honest.
You caught me off guard then, because I was literally just trying to find. I've lost the graphics, you see, for the things. I'm just trying to find. There we go. I've got it now.
Or when you uploaded more of them, upload them at the same time.
Yeah, it's all right. So anyway, we'll move on to third. As I said, this player literally beat Jade Riviere by 1 vote in the end. Have we got any thoughts as to who it might be? Charlie reckons she's got the top 3, so I'm intrigued to see if this is who she thinks it is. Third place, Ella Toon, coming in at 3rd. As I said, 1 vote higher than Jade Riviere.
Oh my God.
This one, should I get the graphic up? Because there's a few shocked faces here.
I'll do my Macaulay Culkin for this one.
Are you surprised that she's not higher, or surprised that she's in it?
I'm surprised she's not higher, just in a season of mediocrity, because she's Tooney and she scored that goal. I felt like she would have walked it, to be honest, because of that the FA Cup final goal. I'm not saying you should win it because of that, but because we had so few moments this season of real positivity, I thought that would have won it for her.
she was my other vote as well. So I got third and fourth on my vote in it. But I mean, Barry, you looked particularly shocked when I brought that crap.
All theatre, mate. All theatre. I don't care. My two are out of the running. I have no skin in this game. No, I actually think that for Tooney, she's probably exactly whereabouts she should be. You know, I think although she has done well, as I said over the season, beginning of the season wasn't her greatest. And I think if you're going to have a go, if you're not going to include Paris because she tailed off towards the end of the season, you have to accept also that Tooney didn't have the greatest start to the season. And I think, you know, what's good for the goose is good for the gander on that one. So, you know, you're never quite sure what these people are going to choose. That's the joy of it. That's why I know you've put them all in the banners bit. I haven't looked because I genuinely want to see what's going on. I did think that she might win it based on the fact that everybody's going absolutely bananas over the FA Cup final. So very intrigued to see who's top. Like I say, I haven't seen it, but I've got an inkling as to where we might be going with this one. Olay.
I will say as well, she's quite far off the top two. The top two were pretty clear from the start in terms of where they were, and we do have quite a clear winner as well. It's not like a couple of votes. There's a big gap between second and first in the end on that one. Jess, are you surprised to see her in third? Are you happy about that? I mean, there's mixed reactions in the comments. A lot of people think that's probably about right. A lot of people expected her to win. I did as well, to be fair. I thought she might end up winning it, but where are you standing on that one?
To be honest, I thought she might win it. I feel like she was like touch and go for my second vote, and I feel like I didn't choose it because I thought so many other people would. I think my issue is with this segment is that I don't think anyone necessarily has had a standout season. So I think that the arguments for people from like, I have my number one and I'm kind of settled on that, but my number two, I've probably changed my mind about 10 times since I actually wrote it on Twitter, and I've replied to the tweet. So fine, that's gone. That was my choice. But I do feel like my number two could actually have been anyone on the squad, more or less, because I do think it's just been a bit of a turbulent time, let's say. That being said, I am kind of surprised she didn't do better, but I don't think it's a bad finishing position for her, really, given the season as a whole. So, yeah, somewhat fair, I reckon.
I'm loving the people assuming who 1 and 2 are. There's a lot of... I was going to say, James, a lot of people... There's a few players you might not expect here. Do remember, we had a lot of TikTok and Instagram votes as well. You never know.
I didn't think when you sort of revealed that third, because I thought Tooney was going to be higher up just because everyone, obviously she's an excellent player. I love to bits, but because she is a fan favourite, I assumed she was going to be in the top two. So I was getting concerned that my other vote other than Jade was not going to be in there. But I'm now thinking from the comments that people have got more taste than I gave them credit for. So that's good. But yeah, I'm very curious to see the top two now because it's not gone the way that I thought it would.
I like this. It's like back in the day when you used to watch like talent shows and things like that, and there'd be like a surprise vote, like someone's in the bottom two, it might go to deadlock or something, you know, because it's all a bit tied. I have a feeling that when I reveal second, first is going to become obvious, because I think most people probably I mean, Charlie, are we on track? You said you knew the top five. Is this the top five you thought so far?
Yeah, but top three not in the order I was expecting. I think my mind will be blown basically if it's not the two that I think.
Yeah,
the two that I have in my head. The two that I have in my head, if they haven't been in our honourable mentions or top five, I'll be very cross, and I will take it as a slight on democracy if they've not got enough votes. Next time, I think that we should do the the weird weighted voting that Barry suggested earlier, where we all get like 6 votes each.
The reason we do 2 votes is because there's a lot of, again, people are complaining in comments about this. We've opened the votes up. It was there for about 2 weeks that you could vote on. And the reason we do 2 votes is for this very reason. So there's obviously potentially a clear outright winner, but you also get a secondary one to push them up, potentially up the rankings as well. And we had to do it for goal of the season this year because otherwise I think everyone would have gone for 2 at Wembley and we wouldn't have had a top 5. So we had to do it that way around. And it's the same for this. And I think a lot of people, when I reveal a lot of people voted 1 and 2 together, which is why they're so far out in front of everyone else. So the people that went for this person in second also went for the person in first as well. So this is going to, I think, reveal who is coming at number 1. But number 2, let's see if there's any shocked faces on this one. Which way around are people potentially thinking this is going to go? Second place, Millie Turner on this one. As I said, quite far out ahead, I think, in the end of Ella Toon in third, and there is a bit of a gap also between her and first place as well, which we'll get to in a second. I quite like that graphic. I thought I did all right on that. Anyway, Keris, do you want to start us off on this one? Is that what you expected? Do you expect Millie Turner coming in?
First of all, I love that you've taken her with the cup lid on her head, because that was one of my
I had to put that in the centre as well. I thought that was brilliant.
That was one of my funniest moments from that whole day, when she was running around the pitch and she suddenly went, "Oh, my manager's trying to take a picture with the cup and it hasn't got a lid on." But yeah, I mean, I don't think there's much I can say about Millie Turner that I haven't said a million times before. I think she's the heart of our team, basically. She has her errors, sure, as any defender does. But she is such a, by and large, she's such a consistent player. And again, it's a bit like Maya Letizia, where would we be without her? And obviously she pulls out those goals every now and again. So yeah, democracy can survive for another day.
Contrary to what RC is trying to push in the chat. Sorry, RC. Very antsy on that one. Who wants to go at Charlie? Is that about the order? Is that the order you thought?
Yeah, I think Viva España will be number 1. I think. Yeah, good individual season for Millie. It was tough. It was tough for the defence this season. But again, strong character, got stuck in. No one was faultless on that back line at various points during the season. Players made mistakes. But yeah, not surprised. Irene number 1. We'll see. Maybe this time next year, Irene will be numero 1. Who knows? There might have been an underground movement started, and maybe she will be number 1. That's what people.
I reckon there's some kind of call in here, Mia. That every time Millie, that's twice now. Every time she's been mentioned, you pop back up in the comments. Something going on here.
Every time we mention Millie, she turns up.
Even Barry's disappointed. Barry, have you got anything to add on? Because I'm conscious you've got to hop up. Well, so have I, really. But I'll end the show on this side.
Yes, I'll hang around and see you finish first. But I think all I will add to that is just fair play, Millie Turner. She's had a good season. She made it into the England first team as well. So it's been a great season for Millie. So her not being in the top 5 would be a little bit mad, wouldn't it?
And Jess, is that about right for you on this one?
Yeah, I'll keep things nice and short. She was my second vote. Like I said, I'll be completely honest. I think if you had asked me on any other day, I could have potentially picked someone else. But overall, I think she's a fantastic character in the dressing room. And I think sometimes in seasons like this, honestly, having someone like that just to try and keep morale up is pretty important, to be honest, because I don't think any of them were phenomenal. So, yeah, happy.
Yeah, I think it's about fair. I think on that one. Again, another player. It's tough, isn't it? Because lots of players have had up and down seasons. So I think when we're looking at it from that point of view, it's tough. And that last game of the season is still fresh in the memory, where I think she had probably one of her worst games in a United shirt up against Ramirez in that game at Old Trafford. So that kind of skews it a little bit. But I think over the season, definitely on that one. Right, I think people have probably surmised who number 1 is, and I'm going to come to Barry first because I know he's going to hop off in just a second on this one. So, as this person, how much do they win it by in the end? 11%. So, what's that? About 18, 20 votes. I think they won it by in the end. Quite a big margin, and pretty much everybody did go for this person in the end, and potentially waving goodbye to us this summer as well. Lucia Garcia, and that's back-to-back Spaniards. Now, Honor won it last year for us, and Lucia this. Maybe it's a thing with Spaniards and us just winning all for United, like player of the season things, that they end up just leaving after they've won it. On this one, maybe that's the thing going on. Maybe we just stop doing this because they always end up leaving shortly after. Barry, is that pretty much what we expected? Lucia Garcia, number 1 for the season.
I mean, no, I expected Nikita Paris, didn't I? Because that was who I voted for. Why on earth would I do such things? Listen, a few things to be said. I think what I'd say about Garcia is she's had a superb season. And if this does turn out to be the last time that we see Lucia in a Man United shirt, then we perhaps need to stop our end of season awards, because that's 2 of them that would have won it and then toddled off to pastures new. So you probably need to be careful with that. But she did incredibly well, and fair play to her. The next thing I'd say is well done to everyone who's voted. I can see there's some consternation in the chat. That's the whole point. Nobody's having a go at people for voting. The whole purpose is that people can vote for who they want to vote for. And that is literally the whole point. We're just 5 people with an opinion and happen to be on the screen. So that's all that is. And the last thing I wanted to do, I do need to go because I'm meant to be live on the next channel literally about 60 seconds time. So we are going to be late, but I can't imagine there'll be too many migrating, because you're going to want to hear the wonderful dulcet tones of these before Connor says his goodbyes. But I do want to say mine, because at the end of season awards is a time to just say a big thank you and a big well done to everybody, whether it be Keris, Charlie for constantly turning up and not diving off of the Wembley concourse, Jess for everything she does behind the scenes as much as on the camera, and of course to old Quickcraft himself up in the top left there, who runs this channel just absolutely brilliantly. The last thing that I really wanted to have for you is to say to all of you really was that I know that the poems went down a bit of a treat for you, so I just thought I'd do a little end of season 1 as well. It's quite a quick one and to a different rhythm. I don't know, I might ruin my legacy here. This could be a terrible idea, or it might leave some of you in tears. We'll see. We've got to go. Our season is run, our work here is done. As we look back at all we have seen, a fairly poor start wasn't good for our heart, and an injury list that's obscene. The league form was poor and we missed the top 4 for the first time in our short existence. But a first FA Cup brought our morale right up, as Tottenham offered no real resistance. And on AFU, our contributors and you, in the chat and across socials wide, have stayed loyal to us, causing so little fuss, and always right here by our side. We have loads still to do, lots of content for you, as the community continues to grow. But we'll never forget all the love that we met on the road on which we'll still go. So thank you to all for watching us talk ball, and for all that you've given this year. We shouldn't be knighted on All for United, but we hope that our shows bring you cheer. With that, I'm gone. Wow. Love you all. See you next week.
That was amazing. I don't even. Wow.
That was wild. I think I was getting emotional then.
Honestly, wow,
Oh my god,
that's quite something. How do we follow that?
That's a lot about just leaving now. To be honest, I've got no response. I'm speechless, and that does not happen very often.
Yeah, none of us knew he was going to do that. He said, "Can you come to me first? Because I've got something on the plan of the season." I don't think we were going to get that, but yes, I'm sure he will see all of your comments towards the end as well. No, we're definitely not. He signed up for another year. Maybe we'll get a long contract out for him. We'll get a 3-year in front of him rather than a yearly extension on that one. Get him tied down to All for United for a few years. I don't know what to say. Lucia Garcia won our player of the season. Charlie Keris, anything to add on this one again? Do you think this is probably about right for her?
Yeah, not surprising. I think her work rate is second to none. It's not, no one else is comparable. She scored some important goals this season as well, particularly the final of the FA Cup. I think she's just shown a real character and real strength that we perhaps haven't seen from other players that we would like to have seen. And if nothing else, you can appreciate a player that will just run. She'll run for the badge and she'll chase everything down. And yeah, I think probably deserving of being the number one spot this year. The end.
I don't know whether Karis is going to say
Sorry,
anything.
I couldn't even remember if Jess had already been through the whole Barry poetry.
Taken aback, to be fair. I don't know what's going on anymore. I think I need to lie down after that.
Garcia was she was the other of my 2 votes, as well as Riviere, because I have absolutely loved watching her this season. I just think she is that sort of rare mix in a winger of the work ethic and the kind of raw talent that you need. And she has so much energy, never stops running, always gives 100%, and has the technique and the skill to completely back it up as well. So yeah, she's well-deserved player of the season for me. If we have seen the last of her in a United shirt, I'll be incredibly sad to see her go. So yeah, well-deserved. Hopefully that will, if you're watching, Lucia, please stay. But yeah, fantastic and good votes. Good player of the season.
Yeah, very much agree. She was the one that I was set on, basically. She was my number one. It was the others that I was a little bit more interchangeable. But for me, I thought she was fantastic last season, so the season before this one, coming on off the bench, bagging goals when we needed her to. But this season, she really stepped up and has become like a kind of undroppable first-team player almost. And like Charlie said, she will just run. If you need her to, she will just run and she will not give up. Like, no matter how bad things get, she will give absolutely everything. And at the end of the day, we will always have that nice interview when she told us how tired she was. So that is an iconic moment for an iconic gal. And yes, Lucia, if you're watching, sign that thing, because I will be sad to not see her every week, to be honest. The thought of that actually does make me quite sad.
Yeah, I think when I was putting the graphic together, I've put it back on screen for it. I think I'll move to the side while I'm talking about it. I was getting particularly sad at the thought of potentially her not being here next season. And to be fair, we're getting to the point now. There was a lot of comments earlier on about players out of contract. We're getting to crunch time, I think, with a lot of these contracts that they're still not signed or announced. And I think we're getting to the point where I think we're going to have to start accepting that some of these players might be on the way out. On that one, yeah, Karis, cover your ears. So yeah, we shall see on that one. And yes, the interview was an unreal way to start the season. It absolutely was. That seems like so long ago, doesn't it? First game of the season, back on the 1st of October. On that one. But yes, that is our player of the season and goal of the season awards for another year. Obviously, there's a bit of people are not always happy with them, which is fine. As I said, it's voted for by you lot that watch these shows, whether that's on TikTok, Instagram, or Twitter and things like that. All we did is put the votes together, and that's the outcome that we got. I will tweet the percentages probably after that. I'm on another show literally straight after this, so I'll tweet the percentages probably tomorrow, so you can see the full breakdown of how close people were and all of those kinds of things. Also, potentially, I think we might get a couple soon, though, because I don't know. I think when you've got every other club making announcements, United, I think the only club now that haven't made an announcement, so I think we will probably get some pretty soon. And also, as has been referenced in the chat earlier on, the men's side are also making some announcements. Well, they have today. I think with Martial and other players, and Varane obviously last week as well. So I think we're starting to see a bit more come out of United on that one. So yeah, I don't know how to follow Barry's little speech, to be honest. I don't even think I'm going to try, to be honest. As he said, obviously, thanks to everyone that voted and things like that. The content doesn't stop. We'll probably have a yearly or a year review show, which is a little bit different to this one. This is obviously more an awards thing. We might do a yearly kind of wrap where we look a bit more about the Conti Cup, where that went wrong, potentially, obviously, a bit out of our hands, but, we'll maybe talk a bit about that. We'll talk, obviously, about the league form in a bit more detail, go back through some individual games at the start of the season, maybe where it went a bit wrong. Even wants me to show the video. That one, I will end the show with that video. Don't you worry. And yeah, as Barry said, thanks for continuing to support us this season. It's been amazing. This community has grown tenfold since the start of the season. It's absolutely amazing. So many of you watching again tonight, which is just absolutely brilliant. So these three, and plus Barry as well, as we said at the start, it's a star-studded panel. These three have made the most appearances out of everyone on the channel this season. So thank you for the three of you for always hopping on and being available, particularly on a Monday, to coming on, even when we maybe didn't want to, when we lose big games and all those things on a Monday. Make sure you're liking the video, subscribing, all of that kind of stuff. Head over to All for Women's Football in about 5 minutes. I think they're live now. We're doing our WSL Team of the Season. For those of you who've watched this channel for years, we've always had that show on this channel. We've moved it to the Women's Football channel for this season, obviously, because it makes more sense. It's a broader thing. It's on that channel now. So myself, I'll be over there. Who is even on it? Barry, Rob, Mia, Meg, Laura. I think they're all on that one. So get yourselves over there. We'll be doing all of that. Thanks to everyone in the comments. Let's just play that tune. Should we play? Oh, have I deleted it? No, it's still there. Should we play that Toonie goal just one more time on that one, and then we'll wrap up the show. I love how you can just hear me, just like. Oh my god! Oh, absolutely brilliant! Thank you everyone for watching and all of those kinds of things. Like I said, make sure you like the video, subscribe, and all of that good stuff. And we should see you guys in the next one.